This video is going to be a film study piece about Penei Sewell and also some commentary about whether or not he should be ranked as the top tackle in the NFL. He's apparently not rated as such. I'll be honest with you, I don't rank players. I don't get into those discussions. I find them to be worthless endeavors for me personally, based on what I try to do. But why wouldn't Lions fans think Penei Sewell should be given serious consideration as the best right tackle in the NFL? Why wouldn't someone like Easy, who's seen firsthand what Sewell can do, uh, at least question or offer the point of view that Sewell should be considered? Other fans see it, other Lions fans, I should say, people that are supposed to see it and independently grade and evaluate game film and then spit out a grade that represents what an offensive lineman did, have to have Sewell in the top two or three. The entire comparison with Lane Johnson, I haven't watched enough Eagles film nearly as much as I have with Ravens and Lions, obviously. So I can't give a valid comparison. Neither, however, can an Eagles fan or an Eagles content creator who focuses on that team properly understand what the Lions fan base and guys like Easy have witnessed since 2021. And I'm going to give some perspective here on Sewell, who has played 4 seasons already. He's a 2-time All Pro, first team All Pro, in fact, if I recall, and a 3-time Pro Bowler. Some of the things that he can get done on the football field are very rare and unique for any offensive tackle, let alone a right tackle. And they really allow the Lions to almost at times act like they've got 12 players on the field. Let me kind of explain what I'm talking about here. And first, we'll use this example, the hitch and lateral, somewhat infamous at this point. Last week of the season, it should say week 18, against the Green Bay Packers on the road on a 2nd and 17. It's a hitch and lateral to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you can see that Sewell ends up kind of jammed up with this outside linebacker who plays it really well. It's almost kind of dangerous the way that St. Brown executes this, but he doesn't have a choice. Look how quickly St. Brown gets this ball in his hands and then laterals it back. Really cool example of his hands and his confidence. But as it relates to Sewell, he's jammed up here. He's totally jammed up by the outside linebacker, colliding with St. Brown, and then still is able to redirect. And that's the part of his play. It's not necessarily the KO. Forgive the camera work here by whoever's running the NFL All 22 stuff. It's not for me just the pancake. It's his ability to turn out of this scrum, if you will. You can see 5 players here all locked up together, and then get out in space and clear that inside lane for DeAndre Swift to get, I think, 15 yards. Of course, they ended up converting on a 4th and 1 to seal that victory, like I said, in the last game of the regular season. 2022. Perhaps I misspoke a moment ago. My apologies. If you don't recall, it's like 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, 2:15 somewhere in that area, and the Lions are up 20-16 after Kirby Joseph's interception of Aaron Rodgers. So here's the play from the end zone angle, and you get an idea of what I'm talking about. Sewell isn't just on his track and not being disrupted at all. He's got some trash. He's got something in his way that he's got to navigate, but he still is able to get his job done. And I think out of all the traits that he has, all the physical skills, a couple of which that I'll talk about, and along with his awareness, which I think is incredibly high, is this ability to play from disadvantageous positions. And what I mean is his job on the whiteboard, the way it's drawn up on the play sheet, I should say, is to go in this direction and lead for Swift after the lateral. Nowhere does it have the outside linebacker completely disrupting, jamming up St. Brown, and then Sewell, having to navigate that trash and still get out in front and give Swift an opportunity to get damn close to gaining the first down. One other example, what I'm talking about, and this is a little bit more of short area stuff, so it's a trap concept. It's difficult for me to spot shadow Sewell here from the all 22 angle, so I'll give you the end zone in a moment. So it's a trap play. They're trapping the defensive tackle. And I just love the bucket step that he provides to give the defensive tackle an opportunity to possibly get upfield and get himself trapped by, in this case, Jonah Jackson. And one thing to note about Sewell, and you'll get an idea of it hopefully from the end zone angle, and I'll try to explain it or just extrapolate on it a little bit, is when he gets a hold of people, he's very sticky. Tony Romo is always talking about DBs, corners being sticky in coverage, right? Sewell is a guy that, as a blocker, when he gets a hold of you, he's very sticky. I don't mean holds. I mean you just can't get off of the block. And that's one thing that you notice about Sewell, besides the athleticism, the awareness, and consistently getting his responsibility done, if not more so than just his responsibility, is that he gets onto a blocker and they just don't go anywhere afterwards. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't show this play. The athleticism that Sewell has demonstrated on an NFL field clearly isn't limited to blocking. You guys probably already know the play that I'm going to show or display here. It's what makes him totally unique and different, in my opinion, than pretty much every other offensive lineman in the NFL right now. Of course, it's not like he's the only lineman that's ever caught a pass. Generally, the usage for O linemen in terms of catching the football is going to be down in the red zone, specifically inside the 5, goal line situations. So here's the play that I'm talking about. You knew it was coming. 2022 game against the Vikings. A couple of positive reasons to show 2022 film, which I'll get into here in a moment. It's a 3rd and 7, and the Lions are, I think it's 31 to 23. Perhaps it's 30 to 23. I might have that wrong there. It's late third quarter at home. And Sewell is reported as eligible out into the flats. Goff is able to get him the football. So he is wide open, right? And some would say it's an easy catch. But what I love about this catch, and well, maybe you think he fell down. To me, it looks like he's stumbling and then dives forward to make sure that he is in bounds. I haven't listened to ever his explanation or anything from this particular play. But what I love about it the most, and what I think tells you about his athleticism, is he's not just catching the football; he's catching and turning almost against his body. And what I mean by that is normally when you're running a route out into the flats, quarterback is going to lead you the ball out in front. So you, as the receiver, or in this case, offensive lineman, can catch it and keep going in this direction towards the sideline, right? Catch it in the direction that you're going, so you're not having to turn or twist or contort your body to come back to the football. Here he does that. In essence, I don't want to say he's doing it the wrong way, but it's done in a more difficult fashion than you would perhaps like to see it executed after drawing it up. It's a 3rd and 7, like I said, 4th quarter, so it's a clutch situation. Ben Johnson and those guys had the confidence in him to call this play. End zone angle of the same snap, in fact. And I'll slow it down so you can see just how he's turning his body to come back to the ball and then turn to get upfield, kind of loses his steps, apparently. I mean, we've all seen a couple of other NFL players comment on the agility. I think his agility is amazing for an offensive lineman. If he was any other position, what would his agility be rated? I don't know. I just know that for what he does as an offensive tackle, right tackle specifically, be able to go out here in a clutch situation. And I do recall, and you probably do as well, all the discussion about Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson's 3rd and 4th down strategies, in 2022. Hey, they're 5 and 7. They wouldn't be doing these things. They wouldn't be going for it with the same propensity if the playoffs were on the line, or if they were in the playoffs, or if they were in the Super Bowl. Well, at this point, we know really that's just who they are, and they trusted Penei Sewell enough in that moment, a 3rd and 7, to be the sole design of that pass concept. One thing to mention that was brought up in our Lions Discord, and many hardcore Lions fans or even surface level Lions fans are obviously going to have some awareness of it. I think it was Ty brought it up. Is that Sewell is still only 24 years old, right? And that's after playing 4 seasons in the NFL already. For example, as a comparison, again, credit to Ty and a couple of others for commenting on it. Sewell is only 6 months older than Tate Ratledge, who just got drafted. But he already is, it's kind of ridiculous that he already has 3 Pro Bowls. He won't turn 25 until early October, which is into his 5th year in the NFL. To compare that, his age, to anyone in the NFL, look, let's do it this way. Lane Johnson, right, a potential Hall of Famer, in my opinion, he didn't make his first Pro Bowl or All Pro campaign or designation, I should say, until he was 27. In his actual 5th year, Sewell already has 3 Pro Bowls and 2 All Pro designations under his belt. I'm not saying that I think one guy is better than the other. I really don't care. My point is, it's exceedingly rare what Sewell has accomplished already, being 24 years old. And if you think and project out to, let's say, he retires at age 33, he he could have 9 or 10 or even 11 all pro recognition seasons. Let's take a look at the athleticism, the ability to play out in space and adjust on the fly. This is a screen to Khalif Raymond, again, 2022 film, week 17 against the Bears. He's 22 years old at this point, by the way. He turned 22 during that 2022 season, his second year in the NFL. So Raymond is going underneath of Sewell, who's exceptional at getting this inside release on a defensive end or edge player, meaning veering off to the inside, down underneath of that player's alignment, and then veering back out into space to go pick up a defensive back that's often unsuspecting, but probably recognizes it a little bit too late for their touch. So it's 3-on-3 out here in space. Raymond is the ball carrier with 2 potential blockers. Sewell, in fact, isn't able to pick up one of the guys who makes the tackle. It's the inside safety here. But what he does do, and I'll kind of slow it down here as we get the play kind of develops, is he really pancakes. I think it's Kyler Gordon. Ends up almost off screen, so you kind of lose him a little bit. He's exceptional out in space. These guys are really totally overmatched, dealing with his size and strength and bulk. Same game, in fact, week 17, 2022. You guys probably know what play is coming as well. Really would have loved to see this go for a touchdown. It's Jameson Williams on a reverse after a handoff to Swift. So here's the angle that Sewell's going to take. And it's a great job of getting in the way downfield of, I think it's Jaquan Brisker for the Bears in his rookie season, in fact. So it's a fantastic play from that perspective, the ability to get out there. But what I really love is the awareness and how quickly he adjusts to it. So he's going to be looking inside for 53. That's this inside linebacker right here. And then once Sewell, recognizes that 53 disappears, he's removed himself from the play. Well, why? Because, Swift's getting the football, so he thinks it's a handoff. Once 53 removes himself from the play, watch the pace that Sewell plays at in this area here. For like a 7 to 9 yard section or swath of the field, he's just so patient and confident. He's not getting out there too soon and putting himself in almost like fourth gear. I would say he's almost geared down to like maybe second or almost low third gear here. He's trying to tempo Brisker because Sewell, understands where the ball is going. That's one of the things that I think is maybe missed about Sewell in that whole discussion that occurred on Easy's threads yesterday, Thursday, as I record this. Who's better and all that shit. Look how young Sewell is. Look what he's accomplished already. And then how great he is in these moments, not just the physical gifts, but the awareness and the confidence and patience, if you will, to give Brisker a chance to pick a side, if you will. Let's say Brisker picks this side and comes downhill. Well, then, Sewell's just going to ride him and take him out of there. He's going to get him going in that direction, try to push him to the sideline, obviously, so Jameson Williams could cut it back up under here. Brisker doesn't do that. And my point in talking about this, the gear that Sewell was in, if he's in fourth gear, impatient, then Brisker probably can jump underneath and kind of press downhill, kind of try to close that space on Jameson Williams, if you will. He's unable to do that at all because of Sewell's pace, his patience, and ability to play in second gear, setting a defender up. He's got tremendous athleticism. Same play from the end zone angle. You really don't need to see it. You probably, if you're a Lions fan, you didn't need to see any of this shit. Really, you already knew how good Sewell was. And I think that's the point, is that there are not enough independent evaluators out there. And I'm not saying that the people who responded to Easy's threads, with some authority aren't independent evaluators. They are. There's so much discussion about the NFL from people who are slanted, who are one-sided. It's natural that Lions fans would take up for a generational talent. He was billed as a generational talent in the draft, right? And all he's done is live up to that billing, if not more so, in the 4 seasons he's played in Detroit. I kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to mention it again because I didn't really have acute awareness of it until Ty and others in the Lions Discord, kind of brought it to my attention. In terms of his age and accomplishments, I really think Sewell he's just one of one. The plays that I showed you from that Bears game, That game took place on New Year's Day 2023, near the end or the completion of the 2022 regular season. Penei Sewell was 22 years old. He got his first Pro Bowl and All Pro recognition after that year, justifiably so, right? You have top of the food chain athleticism, strength, typical size for an offensive tackle, but versatility in pass pro and run blocking. The awareness, patience, and preparation that he shows, it causes me to think, why wouldn't Lions fans clamor to say they think he's the best right tackle in the world? If you're comparing now, entering into the 2025 season, you take Sewell over anybody because he's future proofed, right? He's got extension of his ability beyond just 2025, 2026, and 27. It's precisely because he is so young and presumably has so many great years left that people like Easy and others attempted to address it online. I applaud them for doing so. More on that later. Let's get into some run blocking to just kind of show the physicality. Now, this is an unbalanced set, so when I say unbalanced, it's tackle over, and I will give you the end zone angle and kind of explain that a little bit. By the way, this is week 3 from that same season, 2022, his second year in the NFL. He's still 21 years old at this point. He's going to be going up against Patrick Jones, kind of an underrated edge defender for the Minnesota Vikings. I think he had 7 or 8 sacks last year. So keep in mind, this is not 2024 film. This is when Penei Sewell was 21 years old. A touchdown run by Jamal Williams to the outside. So first of all, it's a really nice job. I think it's Taylor Decker in there. He's kind of falling down on this kind of combo double. He's trying to get to the backside inside linebacker. So nice job of on the combo slash double, and then he kind of loses his feet. But watch what Sewell does with Jones. Again, I think it's Patrick Jones, who's pretty big, 6'4", 265, edge defender. So this is designed to go inside. It's designed to go underneath of Sewell, if you will. You get a better idea of what I'm talking about from the end zone angle in a moment. But since Sewell controls him so much and drives him downfield, that gives Williams the opportunity to bounce this to the outside and get a touchdown. Like I said, in week 3 of 2022, Sewell, I think, would turn 22 about 8 or 10 or 12 days later. Same play from the end zone angle. So the tackle over portion of this, here's the strong side where Sewell was located as the, essentially, really, he's lined up as the tight end right here. But on the backside, you've still got 2 offensive linemen, right? So there's a 6th offensive lineman on the field, what I generally refer to as a jumbo set. The double team or combo that Decker's going to execute is going to the backside inside linebacker, 58. And then the pulling guard or pulling lineman is going to pull and go get the front side guy, which I think is Kendricks right here, 54. For Sewell, he's stepping out to Jones. So this is designed to go in here. But, and when I say that Sewell wins from disadvantageous positions, I'm not saying this is one, but he's got adaptability during the play. This is not designed to go inside. He's staying on Jones enough such that even if Williams is able to get downhill inside of this, what really is CGAT, Sewell has control of Jones and is going to give him a lane. As it stands, the corner kind of gets sucked inside, the safety filled. Williams bounces it outside for a touchdown. I think primarily because of how Sewell was able to control that edge defender, gave Williams the opportunity to bounce it outside when the inside run was kind of closed off by the safety. I do have 2024 film to possibly do a follow-up if anyone's interested. I'll definitely do one for the Patreon and perhaps YouTube as well. I think, first of all, Sewell does everything at a very high level, right? Pass pro, out in space, run blocking, which I'll show you a little bit more of here. I think that if you were to look at this Lions team, Sewell was one of the 3 guys that clearly has a Hall of Fame possible career outcome at the end. They're still writing their career story, right? You're talking about St. Brown, and then Hutchinson stays injury free. If he was able to play the entirety of 2024 at the level that he was demonstrated before the injury against Dallas, then that statement I made a couple of moments ago probably stands a little bit firmer. For Sewell as a run blocker, I'm going to give you one more combo block and one more double. It's his feet, his hips, and agility, and also that his hands never lead out too, for me, it's his hands never lead out too far, which basically means sometimes when that happens, you end up being a one-way combo player down at a certain angle you can't adjust. Sewell's adjustability during the play is again another one of those factors that really stands out for me and separates him from even some of the best offensive linemen across the league. So I'm going to give you two plays here that kind of illustrate my point, and they're both from 2023. This is a combo block on a defensive tackle. It's almost kind of lined up in a four-eye. And when you get the end zone angle, you'll get a little bit of a better view of this. But first, we've got the combo, the down block, if you will. And then he's going to veer out to this inside linebacker who's filling. The Vikings are in another one of those, one inside linebacker looks with this hybrid safety 44, who's a pretty good football player, if you ask me. But when you get the end zone angle, like I said, you'll see the angle that he plays at, and the ensuing play, the next one I show you, compare the angle of Sewell's combo block. He's actually not lined up in a four-eye. He's really head up in a four. My apologies for misspeaking there. But what I'm trying to do is compare the way that Sewell combos. In this case, you've got the initial combo here, and then out to the inside linebacker 58. That's who he's going to pick up. But he also has the ability to combo and then work to the backside, and meaning he doesn't get too top heavy at all for me. And I think that's one of the things that really separates him from the good to very good offensive linemen, and even kind of stands out compared to some of the best guys across the league. So let's run it 2 or 3 times so you can see it. Look how balanced he is, and his hands are not so far out. Some people call it top heavy, but he's not. His hands aren't too far out in front of him. He's so confident and patient in himself that the timing, he's already got his foot in the ground before making contact with the hands. And so that allows him to stay under himself, not get top heavy, not lean out too far, among other things, and then redirect with the inside linebacker who's fitting to the outside to allow basically Gibbs to fit underneath. There's no backside inside linebacker help. Why? Because again, it was another one of those Vikings in one inside linebacker looks. Ends up looking like an easy touchdown. I don't think that's an easy block for most offensive tackles in the NFL. Penei Sewell certainly makes it look as such. One more combo / double. This is week 1 against the Chiefs. Pretty much you can assume or what this play is at this point if you're a hardcore Lions fan. The game-winning touchdown run by Montgomery on an F counter scheme in the 4th quarter in Kansas City. So here's the combo that he's executing, or really it's a double initially on this defensive tackle. And then because of the motion, what's going to end up happening is Sewell is going to deal with this backside inside linebacker. I think it's Willie Gay. Really, they've deposited this defensive tackle in the lap of Willie Gay such that he can't scrape over the top. When I say he, I mean Willie Gay can't really scrape over the top. Even if he could, Sewell is there to pick him up. It does get a little bit further out in front because he's trying to really knock this guy out of here, make contact with the shoulder, same foot, same shoulder, stay on him. You got a lot of things to notice about this play in terms of celebrating it and appreciating it, right? Great timing, if you ask me. Jonah Jackson getting out here quick to give this inside linebacker a big enough space to try to pick a side. Number 1. Number 2, Laporta, a rookie wide receiver with tremendous receiving skills, rookie tight end, with tremendous receiving skills, making a nice block on Bolton, who's as good as it gets, if you ask me, at the inside linebacker position. So a lot to enjoy. And then as well, Montgomery kind of making the safety miss. It's Cook here, unblocked, in the hole, and finishing it off. But what really stands out to me a lot is the way that Sewell was celebrating. It's a big moment. It's been a long time, a lot of football games played between then and now, right? And Sewell's got a lot more games left in Detroit. But this moment is pretty cool. If you're looking back on it now, it's pretty much Sewell saying, hey, we've arrived as a serious team. And I think he's a huge part of that. That's really not a grand statement, obviously, to say that Sewell is a big part of that. But there's so many things that I've mentioned here, and in diving into his film again. I have 2024 film already cut up that'll be posted in the Discord this evening, Friday evening, as I record this. The athleticism, right, is very rare. His strength, A plus. Maybe you want to rate it as an A. That's fine. I don't care. Range and ability to play out in space, elite level, if you ask me. That may be his best trait, right? The ability to get out in space and get things done. There's so many great skills or great uh, elements to his game. The surprising thing that stands out, along with awareness, on top of all of those, is his sustainability. Maybe I should say cardio. Maybe that's the right word. He appears just as athletic, just as strong in the 54th or 55th minute, like here, that touchdown run by Montgomery to beat the Chiefs, as he is in the first quarter. Now, that dynamic also exists, however, during plays. And so when you talk about Sewell, there's a lot of things. I've watched 7 games at this point. I had so much Lions film saved up from 2023, 2024. I actually had to kind of go back in 2022 and grab some stuff from an old hard drive. And the thing that exists, not just within games, but within plays, when I say sustainability, is he's just as good in the first 1.2 to 1.5 seconds of each play as he is in the last 1.5 to 2 seconds of each play. I don't know what the actual average football play is in terms of duration now. We used to tell our kids when I was coaching that the average play was 7 seconds. Can you give us full or maximum effort for 7 seconds on 3 plays in a row, presumably to get a stop? I'm talking about defense because I was a defensive coordinator. And so I'm going to compare Sewell in this regard to a guy that I've watched a lot of offensive line film of recently, and that's Brandon Scherf from the Jags, free agent guard. He's got an exceptional first step, really classy and professional in pass pro. Doesn't seem to be as powerful in run blocking to me. Where Scherf is drastically different is the first like 1.5 to 1.8 seconds of each snap for him is borderline teaching tape, meaning steps, posture, strike, all of that is spectacular. But as the play unfolds or goes on longer, Scherf seemed to be a guy who was less effective. And so I don't bring this out to criticize him at all. In fact, as a Ravens fan, I was kind of hoping that they would sign him to kind of shore up or at least provide competition for our right guard and left guard situation. For Sewell, he's as good not just on the first snap of the game as he is in the fourth quarter, but within each play, throughout each play. He's as good in the first 1.5 seconds as he is in the middle 1.5 and the final 3 or 4, however long the average football play lasts. Hopefully, I said that in a way that makes sense. It's just something that sticks out to me and look, he's 24 years old, right? He should be able to play hard on every damn snap. He's already got a great resume. I don't personally rank players, but I don't see anything wrong with Lions fans saying, hey, there is not a single offensive tackle in the league, right or left, that we would want over him right now, to be honest with you. I tried to push this out on Thursday evening because, to be honest with you, I witnessed Easy posting up so many Sewell plays, which got a lot of responses for him. It was some genius or some brilliance in what he was doing, perhaps subtle or underrated. And I get it. There's a lot more to talk about there. I'm not being critical at all. In fact, I wondered while I was witnessing it if the roles were reversed, comparing Sewell and Lane Johnson, how things would have worked out for so many of the popular evaluators that responded. And here's what I mean. Fast forward 11 years from now, Sewell was 35 years old, nearing the end of his career. He's got 10 All-Pro seasons under his belt. And there's some young, phenomenal athlete at right tackle that grabs attention. It makes me wonder how those players will be ranked, and I don't think that's a losing mentality. Basically, I think it's pretty obvious that in some cases, being in Detroit somehow limits the exposure that players get for certain sports. In this case, the Detroit Lions. I think Lane Johnson is as good as it gets, Hall of Fame worthy, and I don't have any problem with him being ranked number 1. In fact, I really don't care. But I don't think that Penei Sewell will need until his age 35 season or age 32 season to cement his own Hall of Fame candidacy, to cement his own possible legacy. And that to me is the difference between those two guys. Both of them playing at an incredibly high level. Their ceiling is probably very similar right now, but Penei Sewell was 24. And to me, that's what makes the threads and plays that Easy posted up genuine and, in my opinion, accurate from the perspective where he was operating from. Is that you have a player 24 years old, if he was in Los Angeles or he was in Philadelphia or maybe New York or Dallas, would he be recognized a little bit higher than he is, which really, I guess most people have him ranked number two. I don't really care about the 1, 2, or 3 designation. I don't even get into it for my favorite player in the NFL, which is Lamar Jackson. In case you don't know, I don't get into those conversations because they're meaningless to me. That was my perspective and what I thought maybe I could add to the discussion. I was already working on a Penei Sewell video for the all season. In this case, I fast forwarded a little bit to try to get it out as fast as possible for you guys. Let me know what you think of the plays that I showed to try to illustrate and fit alongside with my thoughts, and then some of my discussion about the plays that Easy posted up on Twitter and the responses that he got. I appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Penei Sewell along with a lot of commentary, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.